Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 749, April the 12th, 2019, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, huge news day. Just seems like the last few weeks is just unbelievable. Going to try to get to some stuff I didn't get to yesterday and everything from today as well. So let's get started. First of all, very sad and very disappointed this morning to wake up and read the news headline that Julian Assange has been arrested. He was, of course, unfortunately taken by force to a London jail. He's been charged with skipping bail. That's just something they need to hold Assange. He will be extradited to the United States for crimes related to the Chelsea Manning classified investigation leak. And what they're talking about is, some of you may remember, back during the Iraq War, there was a video that was released by WikiLeaks, and it's a video that shows a helicopter crew targeting a bunch of people on a street in Iraq, and they're joking about it, laughing about it and things and such as they're opening fire on these people and shooting these people down in the street from the helicopter. And that was a very disturbing video. It caused a lot of problems, obviously, exposed some things that the government didn't like, and that's one of the key things. But it also has to do a lot with Assange releasing the Vault 7, Vault 10, whatever, the CIA things that he released that told us that the CIA, or the NSA rather, has a database where they have everyone, not just in the United States, but everyone on the planet, anyone with a social security number, anyone who's ever sent or received a text or email, made a phone call, is in the NSA database. We know that because of Julian Assange. Julian Assange is a publisher, and he's the only honest publisher on the planet right now that I can find. It's just amazing that he's being treated this way, and I'm very disappointed. You see, it's amazing. Here we're going through this entire unraveling of the Spygate fiasco, where we literally had media organizations collaborating with forces in our government, rogue elements of our government, to sabotage the campaign of a presidential candidate, and then to try to take him out in a coup, and then try to cover it up. And they're engaged in all this activity, and yet there's no focus on them at all, other than Devin Nunes apparently filing civil lawsuits against them. Yet at the same time, we have Assange, who's done nothing more than publish. He doesn't hack anything. He's a publisher, and he is the one that's being targeted. This is completely 180 degrees upside down, and I'm very disappointed. I certainly hope that Trump did not have anything personally to do with this. I hope that Trump will come out and even make a statement and say something supportive of Assange. I think this is very wrong. I'm very disappointed, very saddened by this. Assange has been caged up like an animal for 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy. Obviously, the Ecuadorians were somehow paid off. Let's face it, folks. What happened? They got paid off. They got bribed. They took a bribe from the U.S. government, intelligence agencies, whatever. They got bribed to give up Assange, and they did it. Shame on them, and shame on anyone in D.C., including the president, if he's involved in this, and throwing Assange to the wolves. Now, if I'm Julian Assange, here's what you do, Julian. You've got some cards to play. If I'm Julian Assange, I have my attorneys send a letter to Trump's attorney and some other attorneys, including Bill Barr, and I let them know that, hey, guess what? I'm going to write my memoirs. And in my memoirs, I'm going to discuss a lot of things that I know. How about, I'm going to go ahead and tell what I know about Seth Rich. I'm going to tell you everything I know about Seth Rich. I'm going public with everything I know about Seth Rich. Then, I'm going to have WikiLeaks release the proof. Oh, and I have a lot more. You see, this is what I would do if I was Assange. I don't know if he's got a kill switch like Kim.com, where if they give him like a long prison date or something like that, he hits a button and everything gets released. Or he simply doesn't log in a password that he has to log in every day, or else it automatically gets released. But if I'm Julian Assange, that's how I fight back. I drop everything I got on them. That's what I do. Or I cut myself a deal. Say, yeah, guess what? I'm going to write my memoirs. I'm going to tell everything I know about this. I got the documents, and I'm going to release them. Period. One way or another, I'll get those documents out. I think he could probably get himself off the hook. and I think he should use every tactic available to him to do so. Now let's move on to the testimony of James Baker, which we got the second day 2 testimony yesterday, and there was a series of texts between Peter's been stroking us, Lisa Page, in the day of and the day after Trump rightfully fired Comey. And for the longest time, everyone's been speculating on who they were talking about. This day 2 testimony of James Baker shines a lot more light on that and makes it about 99.9% clear who, in fact, this text is referring to. Here's the text. On the very day that Trump fires Comey, May 9th, 2017, 8:14 p.m., Peter's been stroking us, to Lisa Page. And we need to open the case we've been waiting on now while Andy is acting. And he means while Andy is acting AG. Or, acting FBI director. The very next day, he sends a text to Page and he says, we need to lock in, name redacted, in a formal, chargeable way soon. A lot of people speculate on who that could be. Could that be Flynn? Could it be Papadopoulos? Could it be this and this? Well, we now know exactly who it is, or 99.9% sure who they were referring to. And the person they were referring to is almost certainly President Trump. On May 10th, there was already an effort underway to lock in Trump for, we have to assume at this point, obstruction. It could have been collusion, but we have to assume at this point obstruction based on the timing and the context of the text. It's the day of and the day after the Comey firing. But they may have been, we learned from Baker that there was talk about filing obstruction, starting an obstruction case against Trump before the firing of Comey. So now this all makes sense. It wasn't the firing of Comey that was going to generate the obstruction investigation. They were already discussing that. Baker says they were discussing it. It had come up several times before the firing of Comey. So when he fired Comey, when Trump fired Comey, that is what prompted Peter's been stroking us to say, okay, now we definitely need to lock in Trump for a criminal investigation. That is what they were talking about. And I think it's very clear now. The problem is, what was the probable cause? There was none. That's a big problem for Peter's been stroking us and his friends. Devin Nunes has sent a letter today to the Department of Justice, to Bill Barr, about the information he'll be bringing over on Sunday. The criminal referrals. He's laid out basically the fact that he's going to be, it's like a letter letting him know on Sunday I'm coming over with the goods. And just letting you know so you'll be ready to receive them. And he lays out exactly what he's looking at, the 5 individuals and the 3 general areas of where he finds problems with the FISA court and various other things, the leaking and the lying, lying under oath, lying to Congress. So Nunes has sent a letter to Barr, and he will be delivering the documents on Sunday. This coming Sunday, Barr will have those. Something tells me Barr has already read everything. Something tells me Barr is way ahead of this thing. And we'll get to that here in a little while. Well, many of you have heard, of course, this name has been floating around there for, it was floating around about 6 months ago, and then it disappeared. Then it came back again about 2 weeks ago. And now, today, we have the word that Greg Craig, the former Obama White House counsel, has been indicted. He was indicted Thursday on 2 counts of making false statements. That means lying to the DOJ about work he had done for Viktor Yanukovych. He is the first Democrat to be indicted. Yes, he was working right along with Manafort on the other side of the aisle on the exact same thing. We'll see if he is treated the same way Manafort was treated. Something tells me he will not. And these charges came from one of the New York prosecutors, because when Barr put the kibosh on the Mueller probe and put it to an end, everything that Uncle Bob had in the pipeline was pushed to either the Southern District or the Eastern District of New York, and everything that was pending went there. And so today, or yesterday I should say, they did go ahead, and I think this came out of the Southern or Eastern District of New York, prosecutor levying the charges on Greg Craig. We'll see how he is treated compared to Manafort and all the rest. And of course, that would be a Ukrainian situation, and you got to wonder what's going on. Is there horse trading going on? Because you're seeing these things happening now in the last few days with this information coming out about Ukraine. There appears to be that there's some horse trading going on here. Like there's some deals have been cut and some things are being done. Some promises that were made are being kept, and there's some things going on here with this Ukraine thing that's on both sides. That's it's pretty obvious. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but all of a sudden the Ukrainian's top prosecutor, with the full assistance of the Poroshenko, who was totally opposed to Trump, is all of a sudden now allowing his prosecutors to try to meet with Barr to provide information to disclose all these things that Poroshenko himself was involved in. All of a sudden that's all happening right after Poroshenko comes to the White House and Trump gives him the two things he wants, political and military support. Now we get this indictment against Greg Craig. Some deal was cut. Some deal was cut with Poroshenko and Trump. And now people are making good on the deal. Maybe they've promised to protect Poroshenko. That's my guess. Is the only thing I can think of. That's the only way he would cut the deal, and that would be a deal he would cut. Trump may have said, hey man, you give up everyone who was a part of this, and we'll protect you. But everyone else, we want their heads on a platter. Serve them up. This is a likely scenario, I think, but we'll wait and see how these things come together. Joe Manchin, this is very strange. Joe Manchin has come out endorsing Susan Collins and says he will campaign for her. Of course, Susan Collins is a very liberal Republican, and Joe Manchin is a somewhat moderate to sometimes conservative Democrat. Joe Manchin is a senator in a state, West Virginia, that Trump won by a mile. He has about 70% popularity in West Virginia. So there's a lot of pressure on Manchin. Now, if you remember, back during the 2016 election, midterms, a lot of talk that Manchin might switch parties. Keep in mind, the governor of West Virginia was a Democrat who did switch parties. So it's not unusual, particularly in Virginia, a state where Trump's popular, to watch a more conservative Democrat become a Republican. Because the Democrats are moving so far to the left, it's getting hard for a moderate to mildly conservative Democrat to exist in that party. And they know that they're not wanted. They know that they don't belong there anymore. And it's my belief, and we saw this happen in 1992 when we had a big shift in the Congress when Bill Clinton lost the House. Many seats, 80 some odd seats, I think, changed hands, 60 something, and then we actually had a couple of Democrats actually switch parties and become Republicans because they don't like being in the losing party and they're no longer down with that party. The party leaves them. I think Joe Manchin is very close to that point. I don't expect it's something he will do or announce before the midterms, or before the 2020 election, I should say. But I would not be the least bit surprised if in 2020, if the Democrats get massacred in the House of Representatives, and I think there's a likelihood that may happen, that if they take big losses in the House of Representatives, maybe even will lose the House. They'll certainly lose the majority, the big majority they have now. It's going to be either a very close, a very small majority for the Democrats, or they're going to lose completely, lose control, and the Republicans will take back the House. I believe if that happens, Manchin will switch parties. He will become a Republican. He'll be a liberal Republican, kind of like a Susan Collins or a Murkowski. That's the type of Republican he'll be. But he's pretty conservative on energy issues, environment issues. He doesn't buy into the extreme environmentalism. Of course, he lives in a big coal-producing state. He also is fairly conservative on border security. He's been fairly supportive of that. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if the Democrats take a beating in 2020 to see Manchin and possibly a couple others switch parties. Chicago police have sent Jussie a bill. They've sent Jussie a bill for $130,000. So far, Jussie's lawyer has said that Jussie ain't going to pay it. Jussie is currently vacationing in Hawaii with his family. Let's see. We had Brennan, Clapper, and Comey all go on TV on Thursday in response to the comment Bill Barr made about spies on the Trump campaign, the government spying on the Trump campaign. And of course, if you watch any of those videos, they all looked spooked. And I can tell you that they all spoke before they appeared on TV. They're all getting their story together because they all had two themes that they said, which was, number one, wait a minute, we weren't spying on the Trump campaign. We were spying on the Russians. Really? Really? Well, I guess that means that if we go looking, we can find a FISA on Maria Veselnitskaya. We can probably find a FISA on Manchin, on Mr. Milian, on Mr. Tel Aviv. We can probably find a FISA on some of these other so-called Russians, Mr. Greenberg. I'm thinking we won't. These guys are terrified. And then they try to parse words about what a spy is and what a spy is not. I went through this yesterday, the difference between an informant, a spy, and an agent provocateur. Of course, they're criticizing Barr for saying that the Trump campaign was spied on. Comey makes the bizarre statement where he actually says that he doesn't know of any court-ordered electronic surveillance aimed at the Trump campaign, despite the fact that Comey signed off on 3 warrants on Carter Page. That's an extraordinary statement, but when you actually parse the words, then you understand what Comey is saying. It's very tricky. He's a very slimy character. They probably got this talking point straight from the Clintons. Comey says he doesn't know about any court-ordered electronic surveillance aimed at the Trump campaign. You see, they're going to try to say that all this surveillance wasn't targeted at the Trump campaign. No, it was targeted to the Russians. I don't think they're going to be very successful in making that argument, but they can go ahead. They all look very spooked to me. They all know what's coming. And this is all they got. I mean, it's not like these guys can back up and try to reinvent things. They can't. They're already on record making statements, commenting on the dossier, commenting on the FISAs, commenting on all the stuff. They've been interviewed. They've been investigated. They've been made public statements on TV. And they're on record. We know what they did. The facts are in. And the facts do not support their story. So they have no choice but they can't change their story. They have to stick with it. The only thing they can do is try to continue to say, hey, we weren't spying on Trump. We were spying on the Russians. And, hey, we really believe that we had evidence. We really believe the evidence we were getting from these foreign governments, from the UK, from Australia, from Estonia, from Italy, from wherever. We really believe that there was efforts by the Russians, and this was how we were handling the situation. The problem is, it's just not going to fly in the world of common sense. And the fact of the matter is, from day one, the very minute that they learn that there may be something like this going on, the right thing to do and the thing that they've done in the past is they go to that presidential candidate, and they go to him and they say, hey, we think that the Russians might be trying to infiltrate your campaign. You better be very careful. And there's a couple individuals we think that they're targeting, and those individuals need to be checked. And at that point, I mean, they should have went to Papadopoulos. They should have went to Carter Page maybe and say, hey, we think that the Russians are trying to target you. But, of course, they didn't because the Russians weren't trying to target them. Western intelligence assets were targeting them to frame them. That's what the evidence is going to show, and that's why these lying sacks of shit are all going to jail. Period. Michael Avenatti, the creepy porn lawyer, has been indicted on 36 counts, which would include perjury, tax evasion, embezzlement. He stole millions of dollars from his clients. He even ripped off a mentally ill paraplegic client for $4 million. This guy's a creep. He's looking at about 335 years in prison. There you go. That's an example for you, Mr. Comey, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, Clapper, you unwitting idiot. There you go. This guy had the same line of BS you guys had for a very long time until the law and the facts and the evidence caught up to him. And the same is going to happen to you three. Lawyer up. Jerry Nadler. Jerry Nadler says that what does he say? Well, if I could read my writing, I know. Yeah, Jerry Nadler says that that Barr's claim that Trump was spied on is a shell game to divert attention away from the real scandal. Now, one of two things that we all have to. Okay, we have to take that statement. Okay, let's read it one more time. Nadler says that Barr's claim that Trump was spied on is a shell game to divert attention away from the real scandal. One of two things here. I mean, either he is suffering so badly with TDS that he really believes what he's saying, or he knows it's complete bullshit, and he knows he has no choice, like many other people, that once you've chosen a horse to ride, you got to ride that horse till it rides off the cliff. You can't change horses in the middle of the race. These guys are stuck. They're stuck on the horse that they chose, that they picked. And that's exactly where Jerry Nadler is, right along with Schiff and all the rest of them. And Comey and all the rest. I mean, they chose the person they wanted to take to the dance, and now they're at the dance. And the music's playing. And the music ain't going to stop. They got to keep on dancing. And the bottom line is the facts and the evidence are going to decide this, and it will be decided by juries in a court of law. We just need the right man to bring the indictments and set the legal procedure in place. And then the legal process can take place. And then we can find out. And if the prosecutors can convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt of the crimes they're being accused of, justice will be served. If not, it won't. Very simple. And all this BS and propaganda will mean nothing, except for when it's all said and done, and when we go back in history, and people go back 5 years from now, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, people look back and they see the reporting by the fake news media. They see the comments by these individuals, and they realize how deep the corruption went. Because these people, I don't believe, are that stupid. The Department of the Treasury has told the Democrats to pound sand. Pound sand. You're not getting Trump's taxes. You're not. You're not getting Trump's taxes. And even if the Department of the Treasury would have said, yeah, we like the Democrats, we hate Trump, we're going to go ahead and help you out with getting Trump's taxes, he could just claim executive privilege. Executive privilege would allow the president to keep his taxes private and confidential. He's going to win either way. They're not getting Trump's taxes. I told them this 2 weeks ago. I told them this last week. I'll tell them this again today. You're not getting Trump's taxes. Period. Pound sand. So, we've all been watching the meltdowns over Barr's statement, which is kind of surprising. I mean, you know, Barr knew exactly what he was doing when he made that statement. When he said, yeah, I believe that there was spies. When he used the word spies and described the Trump campaign being spied on, Barr's not stupid. He's been around this town for a very long time. He knew he was going to draw a tremendous amount of fire. Why did he do it? Is Barr purposely, dropping the breadcrumbs and giving these people the kind of rope that they need to hang themselves? Did he just troll the media and the Democrats by throwing out something he knew they would jump on and attack him over? Because he's sitting back licking his lips and his chops because he knows he's got the evidence to prove everything he's saying? Just like Trump. When Trump tweeted out, they're spying on me, Trump knew it. Barr goes out and makes this statement that I'm sure they were spying on the Trump campaign. He obviously has the evidence. He's seen it. Most of us have seen it. It's been out there for 2 years. So, yeah, he knows he's got the evidence, and the only thing they're going to do is piss Barr off. And if they want to challenge him, then I'm sure he's up to the challenge. He'll bring his evidence to the table. He'll make his indictments, and he'll say, we'll see you on the other side when this all plays itself out. And I think I'll be proven true. I'll be proven correct, and that you'll be proven as the ones who are the conspiracy theorists who didn't get it right. I, the Attorney General, who am looking at all this evidence, I'm going to get it right. So it's almost like he wanted to be under fire. He knew he was going to be under fire when he spoke those words. He's smart. He's not stupid. He understands politics in Washington as well as anyone. And keep in mind, William Barr keeps very close on events that are happening in D.C. He's got lots of friends there. He's had friends there for 40 years. He's got people on the inside, the DOJ, the FBI, Treasury, State. He knows all kinds of people, insiders in Washington. He's very connected with the highest people, the highest levels of power in Washington, probably in Republican circles. And so he knows everything. He knows everything that we know and more. Let's put it that way. Whether he watches my videos, has watched my videos, or someone else's videos, or not, Barr knows everything we know and more. Okay? So he knows exactly what the end here. He knows the whole thing, the whole story. All he is trying to do right now is get his hands on the specific documents that prove what he already knows to be true, so that he can put together his case, so that he can refer it to a grand jury, or select a few prosecutors to refer it to the grand juries, so that they can start bringing in the perps with the indictments, putting them in front of grand juries, and getting this whole thing taken care of and wrapped up. And I don't think he's interested in dragging it out for a couple of years either. I think he's wanting to move pretty quickly on all this. So Barr knows everything. He knows exactly what's happened, and that's why he doesn't mind drawing fire, because he knows in the end he will be vindicated. That's exactly what he knows, and that's exactly why he did it. We have the Democrats and the left-wing media in complete meltdown mode. We have Schumer saying that Barr should walk back his statement, and that he's launching a conspiracy theory. Now, Barr's got to be hearing Schumer's comments and just chuckling to himself. He's like, yeah, Chucky, we'll see. We'll see. So, again, this is only antagonizing Barr and will only motivate him even more to drop the hammer and prove these people wrong. CNN says saying that Barr provided no evidence. He provided no evidence. Yeah, of course not. Not now. Oh, he will. Believe me. He wouldn't have made the comment, just like Trump wouldn't have made the comment without providing evidence. Believe me. Barr is going to provide the evidence. CNN. He's also going to provide evidence that shows that you, CNN, were deeply involved, knowingly involved in the coup. Knowingly involved, and you were all totally involved up to your eyeballs in that little stunt with Roger Stone. You were totally involved in that little stunt to make the dossier public by getting the news hook so that you could run the story, so that BuzzFeed could drop it. You're involved in all that, CNN, as your ratings fall. Here's a good question for you. So obviously Barr is looking into the origins, and if he's looking into the origins of the Spygate fiasco, he is going to discover the six-agency task force. He's going to discover that this operation began back in late 2015, October, November 2015. He is going to discover the six-agency task force set up in late March, early April. He's going to discover the involvement of foreign governments of the UK, Australia, Estonia, Italy, possibly more. He's going to learn all that because he's looking at the origins, and that's where the origins are. But what happens when Uncle Bob, or what happens when Barr realizes that the day that Uncle Bob the executioner took on this special counsel probe, the very day, at that time, there was not a single bit of probable cause for an investigation. Uncle Bob the executioner put together his posse and began what became a 2-year investigation, knowing good and well from day one he never had probable cause. What happens when Barr discovers that his friend, Uncle Bob, led a 2-year investigation without probable cause, and probably discovered within days, if not just a couple of weeks, that the dossier was a hoax, if he didn't already know it, and that the FISA process was abused blatantly, the same way he did when he was the FBI director, which is why we have the Woods Act. What happens in Barr's mind? Is it possible that in addition to all the things that were done by the FBI, the DOJ, and all the intelligence agencies, that Uncle Bob the executioner could find himself in the crosshairs of Barr for perpetrating a fraud on the American people with a special counsel investigation that he knew had no probable cause from the very get-go? Why did he continue the investigation long after he learned there was no collusion? These are things Barr is going to probably have to grapple with. These are going to be some difficult decisions. I mean, he's in a tough position. I'll be the first to admit it. I hope he does the right thing. I think he'll do the right thing. But in doing so, he's probably going to have to put some of his friends in jail. We'll find out. Now, we have the Washington Post writing on Wednesday that Barr should be impeached because he's investigating FBI's handling of the Trump investigation. He should be impeached because he's doing his job, investigating the agency that he's responsible for policing. I don't think so. The Washington Post has also got a lot of problems. They were involved in a lot of coordinated leaks along with the deep state. And I really, really hope that when we get to the bottom of this, I hope that we not only expose, as I said a couple days ago, the crimes of the deep state, meaning, the DOJ, the FBI, the intel community, but the crimes by the media. They were a huge part of this criminal conspiracy. They were actively involved in it. They were knowingly involved. They knew what they were doing. Quite a few members of the corporate media are criminal conspirators in this plot. Well, we have our first two really solid candidates for Dumbass of the Week. We've been so busy with hard news this week that there's been quite a few candidates who've done dumb things that I just have not been able to get to. Hopefully you guys have been keeping up on your own because we've just been busy with the hard news, and that always comes first. But we have had two people in the last day or two that have done or said things that certainly will make them top qualifiers, top nominees for Dumbass of the Week coming up here in a couple of days when we do the nominations on Sunday. So here's someone that's been gone for a while. She was dominating Dumbass of the Week all summer long last year until Ocasio-Cortez came along, and then she kind of knocked Mad Max off the front page. But Mad Max has been kind of out of sight because she's been overshadowed by some of the other crazy people. But Mad Max is back, and she's back with a vengeance. And just in case we've forgotten how dumb Mad Max is, she proved it the other day when she was holding committee hearings. Remember, Maxine Waters, is head of the banking committee. So she's got all the big bankers from all the big banks, Jamie Dimon and all the rest, are all sitting there, and she's grilling these guys for like 3.5 hours. And she's a moron. She's literally a dumbass. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And it's almost, you can see these bankers, that they can't believe they're being questioned by such an idiot. They can't believe they're even there. It's almost like a parody or something. And so Mad Max goes down the line and says, well, there's been 1 million college loans have been, defaulted on, and what are you guys doing about it? And she goes down the line. She wants every one of them to tell what she's been doing about it. Mad Max has no clue, even though she's head of the banking committee, that the government took over student loans back in 2010, a long time ago. And so the first couple said, well, we don't deal with student loans. He gets to Jamie Dimon, and Jamie Dimon finally lets her in on the gag. He goes, well, actually, the government took over student loans back in 2010, so, we don't really have anything to do with that. Haven't had for a very long time. So what are we doing? Nothing. The government's now in control of all that. And Mad Max, how can she be head of the banking committee and not know the government took over student loans in 2010? True dumbass. And finally, we have Kirsten Gillibrand. Oh my God. Talk about a self-own. She sends out a tweet, and in the tweet, she says that she's getting ready for tonight's CNN town hall. And how is she getting ready for tonight's CNN town hall? Well, she releases a video with the tweet showing her hitting softballs. Hitting softballs. They tossing softballs. Ting! And she's hitting the ball. She's preparing for the CNN interview by hitting softballs. Total cell phone. What a dumbass. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. See ya. Bye.